Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be checking out the Erickson Outboard Motor Flusher. What these are going to allow you to do is hook up to fresh water, and they will go around your water intakes on your lower unit. And the whole point of it is to be able to essentially flush your outboard motor with fresh water. So extremely important for those of you in salt water. You want to get all that salt out of the engine after you're done using it, and even in fresh water, you know, rivers and lakes. So perfect example, this boat was perfectly clean yesterday morning. I went out and ran the Mississippi a little bit later in the afternoon, and there's just green caked up junk all over the boat and all over the motor, you know, from it being in that water. So if it ended up on here, you know, that same water flowed through our cooling system. So it's not a bad idea to flush it out whenever you're done using it. There's a lot of these types of muffs out there on the market, and, you know, for the most part, they're all very similar. It's pretty straightforward, you know, not a whole lot to it. But as far as these go, I'd use them, you know, not a doubt in my mind. The suction cups here, I guess you could call them, feel good, and they feel thick. They don't feel cheap, really, you know. The metal beam here has some good tension on it because you want these to fit snug. So when you push this around the lower unit, you know, you want this, these are almost spring loaded, I guess you could say. You want there to be a tight fit. That way it'll ensure that these are sealed around your water intakes and that all the water is going to go into the engine. You know, not a whole lot to it really. This part is plastic, which you know, initially you might think, well, it'd be nice if it was brass or something, but the good thing about plastic, it don't corrode, especially if you're going to be flushing salt water, or I'm sorry, you know, if you have salt water in your motor, whatever, if you're around the coast, you know, this isn't going to corrode and get all gunked up or anything. So in this case, I feel like plastic is a little better option, actually. Why don't we just talk about how you can flush your motor? So the first thing you want to do is check the manufacturer of the outboard and check with them and see what they suggest, right? And they are going to be probably similar, but a little bit different in their own rights. So in this case, in this Yamaha, this one actually has a flushing port. So a lot of the modern outboards will probably have something like this. And with this one, there's a port here. You can throw it off, hook the hose up to that, turn the hose on, and just let it flush. All right, you don't need to start the motor or anything. So that's pretty convenient. But, you know, just because you have this, in my case at least, doesn't mean you can't use the muffs as well. You know, which we'll show you how to do that. But on some older outboards and things, you're not going to have this option. So this is going to be your best bet. So we'll go down to our lower unit and set these up. The muffs are going to slide around your water intakes. So you have one on each side just like this. And essentially they're just going to go right around there, and you want them to be centered up as best you can, you know, sitting as flush as you can. That way we kind of get maximum flow. I'm just going to kind of wet them a little bit. Kind of helps seal things up a little bit better. And like I said, make sure they're centered up as best you can. I mean, you're never going to get them perfect probably, but you just want all that water to try to stay inside of the motor, go through the motor. And then from there, it's just hooking up a gardening hose here. So I'm going to choke this off and connect it right to our muffs. I want to mention before you plug this in, they do give you a little seal. Make sure that's pushed in there if it's not already. So, being that this is plastic, I'm going to make sure it's lined up good. I got our hose on about halfway, something like that. And I'm just going to slowly kind of let the hose out. Just like that. Before we actually start the boat, I want to tell you, you're going to want to make sure that you have water a good stream of water coming out of your telltale, which is this here. So it's pulling up water through the motor and through the cooling system and coming out, indicating to you that, you know, water's flowing and keeping everything cool. Make sure everything's safe, make sure you're neutral and everything else, and that your propeller has plenty of clearance, and start up the engine. So once you let the motor run for the recommended amount of time, you know, you can shut your water off, and that's really all there is to it. I do like to leave the motor trimmed down to kind of let all that water potentially escape out of it, especially on days like today where it's nice in the afternoon. You might be out on the water, and then kind of starts playing with freezing temperatures a little bit later at night. So definitely don't want anything freezing up in there. You know, it's a good tool to have. You know, if you got an outboard motor that you know, you can use this with, it's one of them things, you know, whether you're trying to flush it or maybe make a minor adjustment in the driveway, or haven't had the boat out in a while and you want to at least turn it over and start it for a second, make sure everything's, you know, doing what it's supposed to before you go out on the boat ramp and you know, look silly out there making repairs and trying to figure things out. It's just, you know, a good thing to have laying around so you can get all those tasks done. But with that said, that'll finish up our look at of the Erickson Outboard Motor Flusher.